Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about 3 ways to improve happiness in the workplace. So the first thing that I can think of is listening to your employees or your coworkers. The reason that this is so important to do, listening to your employees or listening to your coworkers, is because there's a wealth of knowledge in your workplace, and it's from the people that you work with. They typically know what the company can improve on, what the areas of opportunity are, what they're doing well, things like that. But also, it's not only about the work. You also want to make sure that you actually genuinely care about the people who work for you. How was their weekend? You know, how is their family life? Taking a genuine interest in their lives is important. And also listen to the cues. Like, there are small or big things that people say that will tell you that they're getting burned out, or that they just need a break. If you're an employee and you hear a coworker who's, talking about that, like talking about being sick or needing, just being tired or overwhelmed or whatever, hone in on them on self-care. Like, remind that, like, ask them, what do you do for self-care? What do you do to cope with this or that? And you'll find a lot of people don't have self-care routines, or they did, but then something changed and they haven't gone back to it since. And it just giving them that like little reminder helps people to think like, oh yeah, I do need to prioritize that. Maybe I'll feel better. If you're an employer, this is particularly important for you because you want to make sure that the people that are working for you are healthy. And if they are not healthy mentally and physically, they're not going to perform as well as if they were, at 100 or 90 or 80%. So you want to make sure that you're allowing your employees to take sick time. If you have an employee that comes to work who's injured or sick, you are making the priority to tell them to go home. Even if they insist that they want to be at work, then just tell them, well, then you can go home and work. But you don't need to work. Take sick time, go take care of yourself, rest, take the time that you need to. That's important because if you don't keep that as a part of your culture, people will get burned out and they'll leave within like maybe 2 to 3 years or even earlier than that. The second thing is weigh your research appropriately. This is specific for employers, but also I guess it could be used for employees. I like to read new research articles on industrial organizational psychology, what's going on in the field right now, what are researchers saying, what are practitioners doing. And one of the hot topics is hybrid workplaces. So some people are completely against them, some people are for them, and some people are on the fence. I've heard employers say that the hybrid, model doesn't work, and they've read articles about it, but just for every article that you read that says it doesn't work, I can read a dozen that say that it does. It just depends on how you implement it, and it depends on what the work is. If people are doing work that they primarily can do at home, there really is no reason for them to be in the office other than to interact and socialize. What a lot of employees actually say behind closed doors, not to their employers, is that they are more productive at home because they're not constantly interrupted in the office. Now, if your office space is a place where people don't interrupt you in the first place, then the hybrid model may be worse because some people do have more interruptions at home. So I think it really just depends on the organization, the culture of that organization, and the work. We can't just go by reading articles and making our judgments, assumptions, policies, and all that based on what you've read. You have to also think about the culture and the work environment that you have in place before implementing something. So I've seen organizational leaders make huge mistakes getting rid of a hybrid model or integrating a hybrid model without really considering what the employees want and trying to figure out how to make that work or implement it in the workspace. I mean, technically, you've already been making it work for the last 2 years. What's changed? Not so sure. Number 3, empathy. That's probably the biggest thing. if you are an employer, if you are a coworker and you don't have empathy for your fellow man, then you're gonna have a hard time making a happier workplace environment, because people thrive off of empathy from other people. I don't want to just tell you about my day. I want to know that you care about my day. I want to know that even if you don't get it or you haven't been through what I'm going through, you at least feel something for me. If you're an employer and your employee tells you they're seriously injured or they are sick, and your response is, "Oh, I've never had that. What's that like?" And then they talk to you about, I'm in so much pain, blah, 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 blah. And then you just laugh it off a little bit and move on about your day. What was that? What was that interaction about? So an appropriate empathetic response would be, well, do you think, maybe you should take some time to rest, especially if you're sick. You're gonna get better faster if you're actually resting and not coming into work and doing a bunch of stuff. Your immune system doesn't work that way. You're not a robot. You need to rest. And if they insist on working, like I said earlier, hey, work remotely. But here's the thing about sickness. You don't want to set the precedent that people at work, even if you have somebody who's an employee who's a workaholic type of person or who likes to work even through sickness, even if you have that type of person in the office, you don't want to set the precedent that that's the expectation for everybody else. If everybody else sees that this person coming into work sick every day, they're going to have the expectation that, okay, next time I get sick, I'm going to be expected to come in because they came in. You don't want that, because the people who aren't like that, they're not going to last at your job, at your organization very long, because there's that expectation and you're going to burn them out. Some people genuinely want to rest when they're sick because they know that's how they get better faster. So you send that person home. You say, hey, if you want to work, take your laptop with you, work from home. The other reason that that's important is because you're also telling people at work that you don't really care about their health or what they've got going on, because you're letting the sick person work. Who knows if they're contagious or if other people are immunocompromised? You're not even thinking about those things. So empathy is super important. You have to think about every facet, not every facet, I don't want to be dramatic, but different facets of the human being. These are human beings working for you. They're not robots. So think about what is going to keep my employees healthy longest so that they don't get burned out. People who are burned out are generally not happy people. And you want to implement things that are going to keep them going, keep them happy. And another part of empathy is actually genuinely asking people how they're doing and caring about that. Not just making small talk about it and moving on, but actually caring about what people do. Now, if you're somebody who's just naturally not empathetic and you want to be a leader in today's culture, you need to figure some stuff out, because you may not be the right leader for today's culture. That might have worked, being unempathetic might have worked 50 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but today is much different, especially with the millennial and Gen Z generation in the workforce. We care a lot about leaders who care about people. So, and we want to work for those organizations longer. So if you're not an empathetic person by nature, number one, think about if you should even be a leader. Maybe you should be doing something else. Number two, if you are like, okay, I do want to be a leader, help me, I think that you should get an executive coach that can coach you on how to be more empathetic. Or you should get a therapist, because there's probably a reason that you have no empathy and you need to work through that stuff. I can't tell you how to do that through a quick YouTube video, but I hope that helped. So those are my 3 tips for building a happier workplace. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you did, like and subscribe. Bye.